Welcome back, guys. We're going to be having a look through the patch notes for the new patch on Ultimate General American Revolution. So I was on the alpha testing team for this patch, so I have got quite a bit of experience with a lot of the stuff that went on, but obviously I couldn't experience absolutely everything. So I'm going to have a run through all of the changes and see if I can provide some additional insight into some of the descriptions. So new campaign content, so that's just the new map expansion. I'll be doing a video on where all of the invasions happen and what dates they happen as well. Reduced frequency of sea invasions, increased loot recovery. So we don't see as many mini invasions anymore. We still get some larger ones and the occasional smaller one, but we're not peppered with 5 invasions every week or so, like what was happening before. Global map, mini-map. This is really useful, especially if you're doing naval stuff, so you can keep an eye on your ships in the mini-map while messing about in other places. So if a battle takes place on the mini-map, it will start blinking blue. If a naval invasion arrives, you get a nice big red marker, big red circle to show you where it's arriving from. So this is really helpful, this minimap is. Weather now has a larger impact on desertion and disease. So I'm not too sure about the details of this. I think it just basically reduces the camping capacity, and if you're not camping, you take more penalties while you're on the march during winter. I'd imagine that's what it means. Reworked many elements of tactical battles. So I can't think off the top of my head any major changes. The one that I can think of is that the AI will push their artillery closer to the front line. So if you're trying to flank, you're in danger of getting canistered as you're flanking their infantry. So that's one of the major changes that I can think of. There are some other things as well. The AI are a little bit better at handling fort battles now. Um, that's about all I can provide for that one. So many bug fixes, including issues with artillery replenishment. This is huge, this one is. It was something I was requesting quite a lot for the past couple of months. So I'm really glad that they implemented this. Basically, the artillery weren't replenishing on the strategic map, and then they were starting the battle with 100 men. So you were getting a bonus on the tactical battles by having more men than you should have, but you weren't able to replenish them on the strategic map, which meant if they took a certain amount of damage in a tactical battle, you could lose the entire company without realizing, because it looked as if they had 100 men, where on the strategic map they might have only had 5 men left in the company. Accumulated damage that wasn't being replenished. So that's really important. Stat gains not carrying over, this is really good. So basically, before, you could only level up your troops on the strategic map. Any gains that you got in tactical battles were lost at the end of the battle. Well, now it carries on, so that's great. Added many additional elements that will be used for further campaign phases. Now, I don't really know what they mean in terms of elements. They've added in land invasions, basically. So you don't just get invaded by the sea anymore. You get invaded off the map edge from Canada. So that's the only thing I can think of for that. Land tactical battles will now be available for lopsided battles. Basically, before, if you had too many troops up against a small force, it wouldn't give you the start battle indicator, and it was quite annoying for a lot of people. So now it lets you have the start battle indicator regardless of if the battle's lopsided. Improved global map AI behavior. So that just means that the AI are going to be more intuitive about moving the troops around. Increased time before battle loot disappears. This is quite good. Many times I was not quite quick enough to pick the battle loot up, so that's quite helpful. Improvements to company and weapon tooltips. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've not looked at the tooltip since I very first bought the game, so I don't know what improvements have been made in that regard. Game will now pause on global map after exiting a tactical battle. This is really good. It was annoying having to pause every single time the battle ended, just to make sure that you didn't do something stupid, basically. Your men didn't move in the wrong place or something. So the fact that you don't have to do this anymore is really useful. Added a new indicator for units that are charging. This is just a visual. You get a little lightning bolt above your unit's flag when they're charging. More information displayed for prisoners captured in naval battles. Not 100% sure. You get a little at the top of the screen where you get the information tabs. You do get an information tab now that says certain amount of prisoners captured during the naval battle, so I'd imagine that's all that means. Can now produce the same item multiple times. So basically before, if you had 10 factories on a particular project, let's say ammunition, and you wanted an 11th factory on, you couldn't do it. If you chose the ammunition on the production screen, it would just overwrite the previous box. So you couldn't have more than 10 factories on a single project, so now you can, so that's really useful. Improved naval custom battles. Now I haven't done any custom battles in this latest patch, so I couldn't tell you any details about that. AI artillery will try to set up closer to the enemy line, so that is more often. Yeah, I've already mentioned that in the earlier. So reworked surrender formula to account for more factors and make surrenders more likely. So this will take into account other things like how much ammo they've got left, what condition they've got, and obviously your morale as well. I think before it was just the morale. Improved militia's shooting ability. So it's just increased the stats of militia to make them a little bit better. You can only put rifles on skirmishers now. I've never actually used rifles apart from in custom battles, so they're not that good anyway, in my opinion. They might have a use that I haven't really messed about with to find out what the use is, but I'd rather just go straight for the better muskets. Adjust production and market prices of weapons and ships. So basically what they've done is they've reduced the production cost by 50%, which makes selling things that you produce more profitable. Now you can't just sell an infinite amount of stuff, because as you sell stuff it decreases the price. So you can't just produce to sell permanently. There will be a point where it becomes non-profitable. But at least it means that if you accidentally produce too much stuff that you don't need anymore, you can now sell it at a higher value. Reputation change from crew damage in naval battles, reduced relative to ship type. Right, so basically what was happening was you were getting if smaller ships were fighting larger ships in the auto resolve, the larger ship was taking penalties which it shouldn't have been taking, because obviously a larger ship is going to do a lot better than a smaller ship is. So this just means that the larger ships do better on the skirmishing in the auto resolves. Invasion fleets now contain troop transports. This is really cool. So now the transport ships have actually got guns on them, and they show up in the naval battles, so they can now defend themselves. So that's a nice little change there. Now, the one thing I will say about this is they've made it a lot harder. This change has made it a lot harder to actually kill them skirmishing on the map. You now have to actually play the naval battle itself to sink the ship, so this might potentially annoy some people who aren't particularly interested in the naval side of the game. But as a whole, I think it's an improvement. Captured ships will sell for less. I haven't really noticed much of a difference, to be honest with you. They seem to sell for the same amount. When ships are repaired multiple times, their maximum armor, hull, and speed will decrease. Now, I've not really noticed the speed decreasing, but there is a significant decrease in the armor. I've not really noticed the hull decrease either. It's mainly just the armor. So basically, I don't know whether it's 10% or it might be less than 10%, but a portion of the damage that you take is permanent and can't be repaired, basically. So if you take 100%, well, obviously not 100% because your ship would sink, but if you take 100% damage over a period of 5 battles and you repair in between, then you'll have 10% permanent damage that you can't repair, basically. Now, I don't know if that percentage is the right amount, but it's probably around that. Reworked muskets and rifles to have longer ranges and better damage at short ranges. So if you can get in close and do a volley, you'll do a significant amount of damage than if you shoot at long range. And the fact that they've made the rifles longer range doesn't really change much apart from the visual style of the game. It doesn't really change much in terms of strategy. So several changes to volleys so that units are more likely to get off a damaging volley against chargers. Now, yeah, I know what this means. This means that when your unit has reloaded, it doesn't fire bit by bit like it used to. It fires a nice big volley and then the reload starts again. Before it'd be just a couple of men firing bit by bit and then it'd start reloading, where now it's a nice big volley. Like similar to how it is in Ultimate General Civil War. Expanded flanking angles. Basically, it was almost impossible to get flanked before. Now it is quite easy to get flanked. So this is makes the game a lot more similar to Ultimate General Civil War. It's also a lot more punishing if you make mistakes, which I suppose is a good thing. Small decrease in speed of non-supply units. I've not really noticed any changes here, so don't think it makes too much difference. Increased penalties for low condition. So I think your accuracy or damage, can't remember which, but you basically do less damage the worse condition you are. So if you run out of condition, you'll fight worse than if you're at full condition. But that means in terms of shooting as well as melee. So even your shooting will be worse if you're at 0 condition. Increased condition regen rate and adjusted condition drain rates for most unit. So basically before it was taking forever to regen your condition. and you'd also drain incredibly quickly. Now it drains a lot slower and regens a lot faster, so condition's more of a thing now. Before, condition was basically meaningless, but with the changes to the damage when at 0 condition, they needed to change these rates to bring it in line. Increased damage taken by cavalry and artillery units, so basically cavalry aren't invincible anymore. In fact, they're actually quite easy to kill now. I think they might have overdone it a little bit. So, yeah, cavalry are not going to be very well. Yeah, they're going to be quite niche. They're not going to be that good anymore. When you're used to invincible cavalry, it's going to be very difficult to go to this vulnerable cavalry. Artillery units, basically, they aren't going to be quite as good in melee off the cannons, basically, as they used to be. That's basically it, I think. Before, it used to be really difficult to rout them, where I think it's going to be a lot easier to rout them now. Decreased damage taken by skirmishers. So basically, skirmishers used to get annihilated, especially by cannons. So they've made it so skirmishers have got better protection, basically, from range damage. Reduce range at which units will get pulled into melee. So they now need to get a lot closer to get into melee. Before, if they got within a certain distance, it'd pull people in, which was especially annoying for artillery units. Increase damage to routing units and reduce their melee damage. So I haven't really noticed too much, but to be honest with you, as soon as a unit routes, I don't chase them. So yeah, I can't say that I've actually tested this at all, so I can't provide any feedback on that. Fallback should now allow all unit types to attempt to escape melee. Fallback should now allow all unit types to attempt to escape melee. Right. Maybe some of the unit types didn't try to escape. I never used the fallback button, to be honest with it. So maybe artillery or cavalry just wouldn't fall back. I don't know. Charges will now continue if the target routes and will end early if the charger is exhausted. So this is good. So before, if a target fell back or routed, your men would stop charging. That was incredibly frustrating. And also, you could charge an infinite distance at full speed. Now, once the condition reaches 0, you can't charge anymore. Units will no longer chase or charge when exhausted, so that's basically the same as the above. Added condition, morale, and distance restrictions for AI charges. So I think that means that the AI won't charge as much, depending on condition, morale, and distance. Firing will now temporarily make units easier to spot. That's pretty self-explanatory. Reworked the chance for units to permanently retreat when they rout. Yeah, so basically, units were routing in the tactical map, this is, and kept coming back constantly over and over again. It was very difficult for you to route them off the map, so I think this is just change the chance, reduce the chance of them coming back, basically. Artillery shot damage area now depends on the caliber of the cannon, so yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Larger the cannonball, larger the blast. Heavier cannon now moves slower. Can't say that I've noticed too much difference in that regard. Reworked canister to increase range. reduced chance to miss, and decreased damage at longer range. So basically what was happening was there was a little area at the length of a musket range where the canister was missing. And it was very annoying having a one-on-one with a musketman and your canister does 0 damage and the musketmen just plink away at you. So they've increased the range so it's a bit longer than the musket range is now. They've reduced the chance to miss, so before there was quite a high chance to miss, now there isn't. This is with canister. And decreased damage at longer range means that it doesn't do masses of damage anymore, so it doesn't do like 15 damage for every canister hit. It does sometimes only 3. But because it's increased the chance to hit, it's decreased the amount of damage that it actually does. Now there is one thing that hasn't been put on here, but I'll mention it anyway. So basically they've increased the amount of morale damage that the artillery does. So before, with solid shot at long range, it didn't have much of a blast area, where they've increased the blast area of the morale damage. So it still does the same amount of damage, but it's just increased the blast area. So fix issue, that was causing cavalry and routing units to take very low melee damage. I haven't actually tested this, because I haven't chased anyone down while they've been routing. So maybe I should try using some cavalry and test this. Fix company stat gains not transferring to their regiments, so that was, as we were saying before, anything gained in battle wasn't being transferred over into the strategic map. Fixed several bugs related to artillery HP and replenishment, that's already been mentioned earlier on. Fixed ghost officers in HQ, so basically if people got killed they could still perform their job. Now if they get killed you have to replace them. And fixed many other crashes and issues based on your reports. So that's just various bug reports that have been fixed. And there have been a lot. The devs have done a significant amount of work. So during the alpha testing, they must have been fixing 10 bugs a day. They did a fantastic job. So I'm just going to commend them on their efforts and their hard work. Still a lot to do, of course, but they got a significant amount of work done in this patch. That's why it was delayed constantly. So yeah, well done to the devs, and I hope everybody enjoys the new patch. So cheers for watching, take care, and I shall see you soon.